talking about boobs, a good marketing strategy. Because this week, some guy went mega viral for doing literally this. He compared marketing strategy to the size of a woman's breasts. He did this whole comparison where, like, if you're likely the person who shows your breasts, it's because you probably have less, so you're trying to show off what you've got, but actually those with more ample bosoms often have them covered. And he said the same in marketing, and he wrote this whole thing, and then he added a picture of Hayley Atwell on there and was just like, what do people think? Needless to say, it outraged a lot of women, and we're gonna cover that a bit later, but this made it into the Daily Mail. So the thing is, he got free PR out of this. And don't get me wrong, a lot of the comments on his post were just like, you're a pig. And, you know, so it might have been negative PR, but they say no PR is negative PR, right? That's what the thing is. And now suddenly, so many people know who he is. He's been put on the map. And so was this a good marketing strategy? Risque, very much so. But we're going to cover this later. And surprisingly, this wasn't even my bullshit of the week. So if this wasn't the bullshit of the week and something else was worse, you better stay tuned to find out what that is. So this week I've been learning even more about people's obsession with popularity. Now, I've been hearing that Wicked song in my head all the time about popular, you're gonna be popular. And, you know, it really is true. I feel like people are more obsessed with looking popular and, you know, looking like they have this glamorous life than actually legitimately having one, which is so bizarre because I'd much rather have that life and no one know about it. But to others, external validation and what people think of them is more important. So I've noticed this now in business. When I've been throwing events, some of the most common questions that I get is, where is it? Like, what does it look like? Oh, that spot's really Instagrammable, is what I get. And people will only come to events if the spot is Instagrammable, and then they ask who's going to be there, what influencers are going to be there. They're not caring about what's actually in the event. All people care about is which influencers are going to be there. And when I eventually mention someone who's got a good following, they're like, oh, okay, will I be able to get a picture with them? And it's really, really surprised me because people will happily pay more just for a picture with an influencer than actually learning about something legitimate. And I've noticed this now in, like, when I see these events run by somewhat celebrities or influencers, there'll be normal tickets and they'll call a VIP ticket, and all the VIP ticket is the chance to take a photo with that person, and they'll put 4x the price, and people will happily pay that just to get a photo with that person so they can say, I met that person, or they can put it on Instagram and make it look like they know that person and they're friends with that person. And this seems to be more important to people these days than actually learning and meeting good people and networking. And so this is why a lot of event organisers now spend a lot of money trying to get one big influencer, and this is a very normal tactic people do. They get some influencers there and they basically sell their tickets based on that influencer, and then they get other speakers to speak at their event for free because they can say, I'm speaking alongside X. It's making me think about the power of influence, and I do obviously believe that it's important and the power of influence is strong and real. Is it at the detriment? Because, you know, there are things like at the moment where book publishers are now no longer caring about the quality of books. And I mean legitimate, high-end, the best of the best publishers are also slacking on quality now because they are doing deals with influencers because they know they can sell out tens of thousands of copies without actually lifting a finger on their end because they can sell it to their followers. People are getting rejected with really good manuscripts because they are told that they don't have a following yet, and they come back when they do have a following. I'm a bit worried that it's going in the wrong direction. And what I've noticed in my industry now is that people are so much more obsessed with influence, whether it's quality or not, but it's all about looking popular. And so I think that if you're running a business at the moment and you're worried about like trying to build up your following, you've got to look past all of this and think about your why. Go back to why are you doing this? Are you doing it to look popular, or are you doing it because you legitimately want to run a really good business? But remember, there are good people out there, because I ran a TEDx event this week. It was one of our TEDx Shoreditch salons, and it was incredible. Like, the people that came were the type of people who just had an open mind and wanted to learn, and they wanted to meet good people. So everyone in the room was connecting. Everyone was open to raw conversation and actually being really real and honest with each other, and it was so beautiful. And so I want to run more events like that with people like that, and they are out there. You know, I have noticed this trend, because even with my marketing clients, I've been having conversations with them, and it's always been the case where they'd be like, well, how many followers can you get? Like, what engagement can you get on my posts? And I'm like, well, that stuff can't be determined. You're never going to know that. That's never a guarantee. But other agencies are more than happy to guarantee a certain level of engagement on their posts and say, oh, this or your money back. And I'm like, immediately, that's a red flag. There are no guarantees in marketing. But other people be like, well, they're guaranteeing it, so there obviously is a way. And yes, there is a way. You fake it, you put them in pods. And you know what? A lot of these clients know about the pods and they don't care. They've actually said to me, what pod will I be able to join? So therefore, I'm going to get the engagement. So even though these pods are manufactured engagement and they're not real and they're not from their target audience and it's not going to make them any money, they still are happy to pay thousands and thousands of pounds a month to get this, so they can look popular. But what I realised is that if you're the type of person to spend thousands of pounds a month of your marketing budget on looking popular, instead of using that to actually create real business for your company, then you're not the type of person that's going to actually last in business. You're going to fail very quickly with these cheap marketing tactics, and you're not going to be around in a few years. And I'm the type of person who works with people for several years and wants to build long-term sustainable businesses. So they're not my target audience. And I think you need to realise who is your target audience. I think so many people try to get worried about they're trying to do something for everyone. But no, if you just find out who your target audience are and concentrate on working with those, I think things will be so much better for you. Let's go back to the boob post. Now, this guy, I don't know what was going through his head, but do you know what? He wrote this post and it compared breast sizes to marketing. Yes, it was a very odd choice of things to do. Yes, he probably did it to get attention that he got. Yes, it's probably the sort of thing that talks about with lads in the pub, and, you know, I hate to say it, the post was very well written. Like, none of the things that he said in the post were untrue. Like, he actually legitimately compared the size of a woman's breasts to marketing strategy, and whether you show it off versus whether you don't, and the type of people who do, and you just gotta read it. I actually don't think that post was bullshit from the actual content. It was actually better written than 99% of the bullshit leadership posts I've seen on LinkedIn, because it actually had good insights. Like, it actually made me think. I actually read that post and thought, he's not wrong. Yeah, it might be a bit of a pig post, but he's not wrong. And actually, it really resonated with a post that I said the previous day about gender biases and inequalities and, you know, all the topics that I talk about. I thought it was very similar to those topics, and I thought it was actually well written. But the problem is, when you post something like that, you're going to get women who are just outraged, instantly outraged because you mentioned boobs. And what happened was, someone shared it outraged, then another person shared it outraged, and then that person saw, you know, another person do it, and everyone just saw these posts and thought, I need to jump on LinkedIn and write my outraged post, because outraged victim posts do really well. So if this is a chance for me to get engagement that I want on my profile, because then I can look like I am doing the right thing and speaking up for other women, but it's really just a selfish thing for me to look popular. And that's what happened. And my feed was flooded with women just moaning. And it wasn't like, there were a couple of people who posted really well and actually addressed the real points of why these sort of posts can be dangerous. But the rest of people just like, this is what's wrong with the patriarchy. Men are disgusting. Women are always victims. This is what women have to deal with all the time in the workplace.
You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people.
And I just actually think that this stuff is not good, because he didn't actually say anything negative towards women. He just used women's breasts as an analogy for marketing. Whether that's right or wrong, and it's definitely not right, is another question. but he didn't actually say anything derogatory to women. But yet he was called a sexist, misogynistic pig. And the thing is, there have been so many sweeping comments about men. That men always do this, men do this, men do this. And people talk about men and what they do. But somehow that's never seen as bad. And I even wrote a post, the equivalent, and did the exact same thing about dick sizes. And somehow it wrote itself and again sounded very plausible. People loved it, but obviously they knew it was a parody. And the thing is, I've definitely written stuff like that before in the past and people were fine with it. I wasn't called a sexist pig because it was a woman doing it. So my worry, and I know women are going to hate me for saying this, is that if we are constantly outraged by absolutely everything, how are we actually making any change? Because every time there's a post like this, which is so over the top outrage, which complains about every man and the patriarchy and how women are just like inferior and been made to feel like objects, then lots of men are going to see that and just get pissed off. And they're not going to want to support and they're not going to want to do anything to help. I think that the balance posts, the ones that highlight the problems with it and offer some change and, you know, are less outragey, I think it's better. But the sort of things that happen is that then it just becomes spirals, and this is what causes problems, is that people just then love to create these moaning posts, and I think it's more dangerous than anything. So for me, I sort of looked at the post and thought, wow, very risque, but I actually didn't think it was that offensive. Just my opinion. I actually think the men who laugh react at women's posts when they're trying to say something good, or the ones who constantly make little jabs to people to put them down, they are more dangerous than a post writing about marketing and boobs, in my opinion. Because this guy was just trying to get attention and he got it. And all the outrage posts actually just fueled it because he got it, he got what he wanted. But he wasn't actually trying to necessarily put women down. Whereas there are plenty of other people who are, but no one's picking up on those. And for me, I think, why are we spending so much time being outraged about something that isn't actually the bigger picture? And actually concentrate on doing something that genuinely does help women and doesn't create this more gender imbalance, because I think that's what's happening, in my opinion. So it's time for the bullshit of the week post, and I don't even know where to begin with this one. But this has come from someone who's already been bullshit of the week many a times. It is the guy that did a video where he offered someone £10,000 in cash and a book and asked them which one they prefer. And somehow the woman preferred the book because it was his book and it was the right choice apparently, because she's thinking about her future and not about money. Now, this guy is supposed to be helping out budding entrepreneurs and he's telling people to quit their jobs to go run a business, which again is you know, impractical advice and a little bit risky, but we'll come to that another day. He has posted that when he dies, he's not leaving his son a single penny, because why would he do that? That would teach him a bad lesson. He needs to be taught things like how to make his own money rather than actually be given money. And, you know, he preached that he didn't come from money and it was the greatest thing that ever happened. I don't even know where to begin with this, but I'm sure most parents would be thinking, I wouldn't do that. I'd want to set my child up for life. I don't want to let them be a brand and just be given money and don't understand where that comes from. But I'd love to teach them both of those skills, how to earn their own money, how to be grateful for their money, but be in a position where they already feel comfortable so they don't have to feel the stress and the pain and the frustrations and all the worries that we went through, but actually they're already comfortable and they can build wealth on top of that and they can learn how to do that. I'm sure that most parents would feel that way, but he doubled down on this. This is what he does for attention, but he is claiming that this is the right way to do it, and actually other people are wrong if they don't do that. Why should you give people money? Now, what gets me is that he teamed up this post with a picture of his son lying comfortably in first class. And I'm like, well, if you want to teach your son like the lessons, he said they don't want to show him wealth that he didn't earn, then why are you putting him in first class? Why don't you guys find first class and put him in economy? Because he didn't earn that first class ticket. So why are you putting him in first class? But the thing is, every one of these influencers do what they can to show off how much money they've got. And so this has just been like a chance to be like, look, I ride first class because I'm really rich. And there's so many of his posts that do that. But he then tries to do it with a comment sounding like he is this great person teaching wisdom to everyone, everywhere. But it's just so ridiculous and just pure bullshit. But yet he then doubled down on it by saying that he was called a bad father the next day and wrote another post about why teaching kids wisdom is much better than giving them money. But I looked through the comments on the previous post and there was no one disagreeing with him. And it's made me think a couple of things. I was like, is he deleting all the posts? Or is everyone just agreeing with him? Because no one disagrees with influencers. And do they just assume that because he has money, he must be everything he says is gospel? And it's so worrying that people are now like in the comments going, great advice, I think I shouldn't leave any money to my kids either. Actually, you're right, I never thought about it this way, I'm going to change my will. Like, you are literally like robbing people of their inheritance because of a ridiculous LinkedIn post. It's probably not even true. You're probably going to leave your kid loads of money. So I find it utterly ridiculous. And I think it's so dangerous, some of this advice and this influence out there. I think it needs to be regulated because it's just so... Anyway, I find it distasteful because he's also, on the same time, talking about how he's helping kids grow and he's giving kids opportunities and money and everything like that, but yet he won't give his own kid money. It doesn't add up. And for me, this sort of bullshit should be called out, because if you're saying a different thing every week to get attention, all you're doing is being selfish. Every one of your posts is to show off how much money you've got and how successful you are. You're not actually helping other people, and people need to call out this bullshit. I've hardly seen anything in the comments. My comments seem to keep getting deleted. If you see these posts, absolutely call out the bullshit that it actually is, because if these guys don't realise they're actually spreading bullshit and they're just constantly going out there, then people who are more naive and don't understand things are going to believe everything they say and they're going to get themselves into trouble. It's dangerous. Please help me call out this bullshit. So once again, interesting week, and I hope you've learned from the lessons that I've learned. This is the things that I personally learn every single week, and I want to share all my learnings with you on the journey. And so I hope to see you next week.